You know, when you're driving down the interstate and a massive 53-foot semi-truck rumbles past you.
Oh, yeah, you just feel the wind coming off those things.
Right. And there's this, like, underlying expectation of total utility. You look at that giant metal box and you just assume it is packed to the absolute brim with goods.
Well, sure, it's a completely natural assumption. I mean, it's a massive piece of heavy machinery moving across the country.
Yeah.
You figure every single inch of space, every single pound of available capacity is being maximized, you know?
Okay.
Just to justify the diesel fuel and the wear and tear on the highway.
Exactly. But then you actually step into the data behind those shipments, and suddenly that illusion of perfect efficiency just completely shatters.
Oh, it falls apart.
It really does. We are looking at a logistical landscape that is, honestly, hiding a massive amount of waste right in plain sight. So welcome to the Warehouse Reality Check.
Glad to be here.
Today we are taking you on a deep dive into how the global supply chain is finally moving out of the dark ages of disjointed, siloed software.
And it is about time.
Right. And it's entering this entirely new era. It's a concept called dynamic agentic orchestration.
Which sounds like a mouthful, but we'll get into it.
We will.
Oh,
And we're pulling today's insights from a really fascinating stack of industry briefings. This includes a key paper titled Agentic AI Replenishment Optimization Ready Today, along with several incredibly eye-opening ebooks from the team over at ProvisionAi.
Yeah, the data in these sources, it really changes how you look at the physical world. I mean, it forces you to rethink literally every truck you pass on the highway.
Well, let me give you the statistic right off the bat that completely floored me. So ProvisionAi analyzed a sample of over 150,000 heavily loaded trucks.
A massive sample size.
Massive. And out of those, a staggering 91% could have safely added additional payload.
91%.
Yes, 91%. These trucks are basically driving around hauling expensive air and just wasting millions of dollars. So today we're going to explore exactly how agentic AI is solving this massive hidden problem.
Yeah, and to really grasp the solution, we first have to unpack the origin of the chaos. And that boils down to the massive gap between the theoretical plan generated by a corporate computer and the messy physical reality of a warehouse loading dock.
Right, and the sources actually trace this chaos back to a really famous concept. Like, if you've ever taken a business class, you might have heard of the beer game.
Oh, classic.
Yeah, it's this supply chain simulation that was developed at MIT back in the 1960s, I think. And it perfectly illustrates why human intuition just totally fails in complex networks.
Yeah, the beer game essentially proves how incredibly vulnerable supply chains are to overreaction.
Yeah.
So in the simulation, players take on different roles you have, like a retailer, a wholesaler, a distributor, and a factory.
Okay.
And the key takeaway is that even a tiny, seemingly insignificant fluctuation in customer demand at the retail level, it creates this massive amplified wave of panic as you move upstream. They call it the bullwhip effect.
Right. Think about a real-world example like toilet paper during a shortage.
Oh, we all remember that.
Exactly. So a local grocery store notices they sold 10 extra packs of toilet paper over the weekend. The store manager thinks, I better order 20 extra just to be safe.
Makes sense on a local level.
Right. But then the regional distributor sees orders from 50 stores suddenly double. So they panic and order 1,000 extra pallets from the wholesaler.
And it just snowballs.
Yeah. By the time that signal reaches the paper mill, the factory is scheduling mandatory weekend overtime shifts to produce 1 million rolls of toilet paper that, honestly, nobody actually needs.
And what is genuinely alarming is that modern supply chain software hasn't entirely fixed this bullwhip effect. In fact, in some ways, it has basically automated the panic.
Wow.
Yeah. Companies today rely heavily on advanced planning and scheduling software known as APS. Now, the math inside this software is brilliant.
The algorithms are top-notch.
Exactly. The logic is elegant. It is meticulously designed to make sure a company never, ever runs out of stock. But, as the ProvisionAi briefings point out, these APS systems operate in a total vacuum.
Meaning they are completely blind to physical reality. Like, the software doesn't know if the warehouse labor is stretched to the breaking point, right?
That's no idea.
It doesn't know if the yard is completely congested with empty trailers or if the dock doors are all occupied.
Right. And that blindness leads directly to what the text calls the safety stock trap. Let's say you have a distribution center that typically handles 10 incoming truckloads a day.
Okay, 10 trucks.
Suddenly, the inventory for one specific STU maybe, like a popular brand of shampoo, drops just 3 cases below its predetermined safety stock limit.
Just 3 cases.
Just 3 cases. The APS system detects this micro fluctuation and immediately goes into crisis mode. It triggers a massive urgent request for a full stock transfer from the manufacturing plant just to fill that tiny gap.
Okay, let's unpack this. It sounds like a smart thermostat sensing a draft from a slightly cracked window and deciding to turn the furnace up to 120 degrees.
That is exactly it.
Like, it is technically responding to a programmed signal, but practically speaking, it is burning the house down.
That is the perfect analogy. Because it lacks context, the system overcorrects wildly, and the cascading damage is severe. I mean, the APS doesn't care that the receiving distribution center is already completely full,
Right.
or that the receiving staff is exhausted from working overtime. It just sees a number drop below a threshold, and it forces a truck onto the road.
And because it's now a rush order, I'm guessing the company's usual affordable carrier might not even be available.
Spot on. So, the transportation team is forced to scramble and hire an expensive, non-core trucker off the spot market, paying a massive premium.
So the core issue here really seems to be how these different software systems communicate, or rather, how they completely fail to communicate.
Why do supply chains rely on rigid sequential planning? Because historically, that was the only way to build these systems. You have your planning software, your enterprise resource planning system, the ERP that handles the billing and raw materials.
Right.
Your transportation management and your warehouse management, they are entirely siloed.
So they don't talk to each other.
No. They pass information in a linear cascade, like a relay race where you hand off the baton and stop running. They don't talk in real time. Because of this, planners develop a culture of defensive planning.
What does that look like in practice?
They start artificially bloating their buffer inventories and lowering weight targets on trucks just to avoid the chaos. They basically hide the inefficiency to protect themselves from the system's overreactions.
Okay, so the software in the corporate office plans a perfect, mathematically pristine, but completely impossible scenario.
Exactly.
And then that flawed plan gets handed down to the physical loading dock. Imagine being the person on the ground who has to actually make that work.
It's a nightmare.
Because out on the dock, legal weight limits aren't just details you can figure out later. They are foundational to the entire operation.
The physical constraints are absolute. In the United States, you don't just have a gross weight limit of 80,000 pounds for a semi-truck.
Yeah.
The laws are vastly more complex.
Right, it's not just a single number.
Not at all. Each individual state has strict, specific axle weight limits and rules about the distance between those axles.
Yeah, the sources specifically mention the California Bridge formula, which honestly sounds like an absolute nightmare to calculate by hand.
Oh, it is. It is an incredibly strict set of regulations designed to dictate exactly how weight must be distributed across the axles of a vehicle, and that's to prevent structural damage to bridges and highways.
Right.
So imagine a scenario where a truck is perfectly under the total 80,000-pound gross weight limit. Maybe it weighs 70,000 pounds.
It's totally fine on paper.
Right. But if too much of that weight is sitting over the rear tandem axles instead of being spread evenly to the front, that truck is completely illegal.
Wow.
Yeah, if it rolls through a weigh station, it will get pulled over, the driver gets delayed, and the company's slapped with a massive fine.
But the planners up in the office, the ones running the APS software, they are totally isolated from that reality. They often just assume the guy driving the forklift on the loading dock will, just figure it out.
Yep, they just hand over a list.
They hand over a list of products and assume the physical puzzle will solve itself. And that leads us straight into what the ProvisionAi text calls the tribal knowledge trap.
And this trap is one of the biggest hidden drains on corporate logistics, because the people physically loading the trucks aren't given a mathematically sound 3D spatial plan. They have to rely on unscientific rules of thumb that have just been passed down over the years.
Right, the text mentions a classic one. Never load past the 48-foot line in a 53-foot trailer.
Exactly. Or loaders will just try to copy whatever configuration vaguely worked the last time they shipped a similar order.
Which is wild. And then there's the silent killer of inaccurate item master data.
Oh, that is a huge issue.
Like, this happens when the central database thinks a pallet is, say, 40 inches tall, but in reality, the manufacturer changed the packaging, and it's actually 45 inches tall.
So the planner up in the office assumes a certain number of pallets will fit snugly into the trailer, but when the loader actually tries to drive them in, they physically cannot stack them.
Right. The text highlights a real-world case where a simple master data error like this resulted in 4 full pallets being left off of every single trailer heading to Canada.
Think about the cost of that.
Over the course of a month, that seemingly tiny data error translated to 20 extra, completely avoidable truckloads being put on the road.
It's just massive waste.
But wait, let me play devil's advocate here for a second.
Sure.
These dock workers have been doing this for years, sometimes decades. Isn't their hands-on experience and tribal knowledge exactly what you need to solve a practical, physical puzzle like packing a truck? Like, they know the products, they know the trailers, they know what shifts in transit.
This raises an important question. How much cognitive load can a human being actually process simultaneously on the fly?
That's fair.
Think about what we are asking a dock worker to do. Human intuition is great, but it simply cannot calculate three-dimensional geometric volume, complex product fragility, stacking rules, and strict state-by-state axle weight legalities all at the exact same time.
It's basically mathematically impossible to do all that in your head while actively driving a forklift.
Exactly. It's not just playing a game of Tetris where you're trying to fit shapes together. A much better analogy would be packing a small, unstable canoe for a long river trip.
Oh, I like that.
You can neatly stack all your heavy coolers in the very back so they fit perfectly, but the moment you put that canoe in the water, it's going to capsize. Weight distribution dictates everything.
And now apply that to a 53-foot trailer going 65 miles an hour down the highway.
Right. This is exactly why 91% of trucks end up underloaded. When faced with that overwhelming level of complexity and risk, humans naturally default to safe, inefficient guesses.
They just play it safe.
They have to. They leave empty space to guarantee they don't crush the fragile products underneath, and they underload to guarantee they won't get hit with a weigh station fine.
So human guesswork fails because this spatial and weight distribution math is just too hard for a person to do on the fly. And the rigid APS software fails because it is entirely blind to those physical realities on the ground.
Exactly.
We are stuck between a rock and a hard place. So how do you bridge a gap like that? Well, the sources introduce the technological bridge that actually solves this problem. We're talking about the agentic supply chain, and specifically the model ProvisionAi has built with a tool called LevelLoad.
LevelLoad is essentially the operational blueprint for how an agentic supply chain actually functions in the real world.
Which is huge because for a long time, the idea of autonomous AI agents managing supply chains was just academic theory.
Just buzzwords.
Right. But this technology is moving major corporations away from that rigid sequential planning we discussed and pulling them into what is called dynamic agentic orchestration.
Dynamic agentic orchestration. It sounds like a heavy piece of corporate jargon, but the breakdown of how it mechanically functions is incredible.
Yeah, instead of dumb software passing a baton, we are talking about intelligent software agents that perceive, decide, and act across different operational domains like demand, supply, warehousing, transportation.
And the genius of LevelLoad is in its architecture. It doesn't walk into a massive corporation and force them to rip out and replace their legacy multi-million-dollar ERP or APS systems.
Oh, because that would take years and cause massive disruption.
It would be a disaster. Instead, it acts as an agentic network digital twin that wraps around the current systems. It sits on top of them.
Okay, so it just layers on.
Right. It intercepts that mathematically flawless but physically blind output from the APS system, and it immediately recalibrates it against actual real-world constraints.
Like what?
Like the actual availability of trucks on a specific lane or the dock throughput limits at the receiving warehouse. It massages that data to generate a completely achievable, smoothed-out 30-day forecast.
Okay, here's where it gets really interesting. To make this 30-day plan actually function in a legacy system without causing the software to panic, LevelLoad uses this brilliant placeholder strategy.
It's so smart.
It looks ahead and realizes, okay, based on consumption, we're going to need a truck on this specific route next Tuesday. So it goes into the company's ERP system and books the carrier capacity using temporary dummy codes.
It basically creates a reservation. It secures the physical truck and the driver well in advance.
Right, and by booking early, the company keeps transportation costs incredibly low and guarantees they actually have a carrier.
But crucially, it intentionally does not lock in exactly what specific products are going on that truck yet. It just holds the space open.
To understand why this is such a massive leap forward, we have to look at how software traditionally communicates versus how these new agents communicate. Historically, systems talked using rigid API connections or fixed EDI transactions.
Yeah, think of APIs and EDIs like train tracks. Information can move incredibly fast, but it can only go exactly where the tracks have been rigidly laid down in advance.
And if there's an obstacle, The train stops. It can't go around.
Exactly. But in an agentic supply chain, these intelligent agents are powered by large language models, or LLMs. They are more like off-road vehicles. They can navigate around obstacles and forge new paths dynamically.
Right. If we connect this to the bigger picture, what this means is that these agents can actually communicate with each other using structured natural language. They literally negotiate.
Yes, the AI supply agent might send a signal to the AI transport agent saying, I need to move these 50 pallets of paper towels today.
And the warehouse agent intercepts that and pushes back.
It does. It says, our dock doors are totally maxed out today. We literally don't have the space. Can we smooth this out? Send 20 pallets today and 30 tomorrow.
So they are orchestrating the workload over time, finding compromises, rather than just blindly reacting to an emergency and forcing a truck onto the road.
It smooths out those massive disruptive spikes that cause the bullwhip effect. By leveling the load across a 30-day horizon, you aren't paying premium spot market rates for last-minute trucks.
And just as importantly, your warehouse staff isn't standing around empty-handed on a Tuesday, only to be drowning in mandatory overtime on a Friday when a dozen unplanned trucks show up at once.
Exactly. It saves so much burnout.
So thanks to LevelLoad, we have the 30-day plan smoothed out, we have the truck booked with a dummy code, securing the cheap rate, but eventually, the clock runs out.
Tuesday
arrives, and the actual physical truck pulls up to the loading dock. How does the system pivot from a digital placeholder to a physical load without breaking down?
That brings us to the final mile of this optimization.
Which is where ProvisionAi introduces their execution tool, AutoO2.
AutoO2 is where the high-level 30-day strategic plan meets the intense split-second execution right before the truck leaves the dock. It is a highly advanced optimizing load builder.
Literally just before shipping, as that truck is backing into the dock door, the system finally deletes those placeholder dummy codes.
Right.
And it replaces them with the absolute most urgent, real-time, demand-driven inventory. Because as we know, demand shifts constantly. What the system thought you needed a week ago might not be what the grocery store actually needs today.
Exactly. The system grabs the most current reality, and then AutoO2 steps in to function as a massive feasibility engine. It isn't just throwing items onto a printed list for the forklift driver.
It's doing all the heavy lifting mentally.
Yes. It simultaneously considers the complex stacking rules. It considers the fragility of the items, ensuring you don't crush light boxes of potato chips under heavy pallets of canned soup.
It would be a mess.
It evaluates the cube volume versus weight trade-offs. And critically, it perfectly calculates those complex state axle restrictions, like the California Bridge formula, so the truck is guaranteed to be legally compliant.
It takes all of that insane multivariable math, and it generates a highly visual, mathematically optimized 3D load diagram.
Yep.
So instead of a stressed-out dock worker standing there, staring at a massive pallet of fragile goods and a heavy pallet of liquids, trying to guess how to balance a canoe, they are basically handed a perfect, legally compliant blueprint generated by AI just seconds before they start loading.
That is precisely the workflow. The loader looks at a tablet mounted on their forklift, and it shows them exactly where to place every single pallet to maximize the cubic space and balance the weight perfectly over the specific axles of that trailer.
That's incredible.
And it is vital to note that this isn't some futuristic 10 years out science fiction concept. It is deeply integrated into operations today. The sources highlight that this creates a really tight, trusting human-AI loop.
Meaning the workers actually trust the system.
They trust the AI because the system is entirely transparent. It's explainable. If the AI tells a loader to put a specific heavy pallet in a seemingly weird spot near the front of the trailer, the loader can tap the screen and see that the AI is doing it specifically to balance the axle weight for the state of Illinois, which they have to drive through.
Oh, wow. So it removes the guesswork and the anxiety.
Completely.
The result of smashing these legacy software silos are incredibly concrete. Like, we aren't just talking about abstract efficiency. We're talking about massive financial impact. The case studies in the provision and materials show around a 4% savings on replenishment freight costs alone.
To put that in perspective, for a global consumer products company spending $500 million a year on freight, a 4% savings drops $20 million straight to the bottom line.
That is a staggering amount of recovered capital.
It really is.
Plus, they see significantly improved OTIF metrics on time, in full delivery.
Which is what everyone wants.
Right. That isn't just a corporate acronym. That means when you go to the grocery store, the items you want are actually sitting on the shelf because the truck arrived when it was supposed to,
Yeah.
with the exact mix of products the store needed.
And it drives a major reduction in wasted warehouse labor and dock congestion.
It really is the difference between composing a brilliant symphony and actually having the instruments and the musicians required to play it.
Oh, beautifully said.
The legacy planning software writes the music, but tools like Auto2 and LevelLoad ensure the warehouse actually has the capacity, the timing, and the physical space to perform it without the whole thing breaking down into noise.
Exactly.
Okay, let's unpack this. So what does this all mean? Why should you, listening to this deep dive right now, care about the internal software mechanics of truck loading?
It's a fair question.
Well, because it touches absolutely everything in our physical world. This massive shift from reactive, panicked firefighting to proactive, agentic orchestration means cheaper goods on the shelves.
Because companies aren't forced to pass the cost of millions of dollars in wasted freight down to the consumer.
Exactly. It means significantly less wasted fuel, which is vastly better for the environment because we're finally putting fewer fully loaded trucks on the road instead of a massive fleet of partially empty ones.
Yeah, that 91% underloaded figure starts to shrink.
Yeah. It means the global supply chain finally works the way we always assumed it did when we looked at those trucks on the highway.
It brings our physical reality in line with our theoretical models, and it proves that the implementation of AI in the enterprise isn't just about text generators or customer service chatbots.
Right, it's so much more than that.
It is about deeply physical, mathematical optimization that moves millions of tons of material flawlessly across the globe.
It really is a massive reality check. But before we wrap up today's deep dive, I want to leave you with a thought that builds on everything we've just explored.
I'm intrigued.
Right now, as we've seen with LevelLoad, these large language models are empowering internal AI agents to negotiate and orchestrate incredible complex logistics within a single company's private supply chain.
Yes, they are breaking down the walls between a single company's warehouse and its own transportation team.
But what happens in a few years when these AI agents become so advanced and so trusted that they start looking outside their own corporate walls? Imagine the AI agent of one massive consumer goods company realizing it has half an empty truck rolling down Interstate 80. What happens when that agent starts directly calling and negotiating with the AI agent of a fierce direct competitor to share that empty space in real time?
Just instantly splitting the freight cost and having the carbon footprint?
Exactly. If these agents can successfully orchestrate a single warehouse today, can they eventually orchestrate an entire collaborative global economy tomorrow? Next time a 53-foot semi rumbles past you on the highway, ask yourself, is it hauling product, is it hauling expensive air, or is its every move being quietly negotiated by an invisible network of agents?